It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and it's a beautiful day here at League Unlocked because Week 7 of the LCK getting underway. After the Renault games on Wednesday, the LPL stole the show, but a lot of the big names back in action for Week 7 in Korea. And you remember Damwon kind of started their comeback train by taking down Sandbox many weeks ago. And Sandbox came into Week 7 looking for a little bit of revenge. They've looked a little bit more questionable, a little bit more vulnerable over the last couple of weeks after their 7-1 start. They've gone 2-2 since then with losses to the Afreeca Freaks, which you would have expected again in the preseason, but of course, as the season has played out, you don't really expect Afreeca to be taking down any of these playoff squads. And Damwon had that 6-game series winning streak. They are looking like a top 3 team in Korea, and they've been very flexible with their roster. And in Game 1, you saw exactly that, with Flame starting alongside Canyon in the jungle and Barrel in at support. Those are the 3 main roles you've seen swapping around, and we had a jungle Riven in this matchup for Canyon, and it was a late first blood 17 minutes in when Afreeca makes his appearance in the top lane, and Yorick grabs the first kill, and he wasn't done there because a little bit of disrespect by Showmaker. He's got the Trinity Force. Put some respect on that Yorick's name. He grabs 2 kills for the double, and obviously double kill Yorick that early on in the game is going to be a terrifying threat, and really, that was the main snowballing start for Sandbox, playing through the top lane. Afreeca was just controlling the jungle all over the place. The jungle Riven was completely useless in the early game, and for the majority of that, Damwon couldn't even get past their own river because they were just being so oppressed. The Dove on the LeBlanc is 2-shotting the Irelia. No chance to contest the Baron. A bunch of dragons going the way of Sandbox. And really, Damwon was just left watching for the majority of this first game. They had no chance to really do anything, any of these team fights. Ghost was mostly untouched in these fights, just laying down the damage on the Ashe. He eventually picked up the GA, so there was really no chance for Damwon to ever take them down. 4 dragons, 11 kills to 2. Not much of anything going for Damwon. Clearly, the jungle Riven pick did not work out in this game. Flame had a lot of CS, but just couldn't get to any of the back line. So Game 2, bring in the subs. 3 new players coming in. Nuggery, Punch, and Hoyt all sub in. And early on, it was still the jungler for Damwon that wasn't doing so much. We saw the Riven not do very much, while the Rek'Sai for Punch was trying to do a little bit too much. He tries to flash and get to his tunnels, but he's going to go down. That's first blood again, going the way of Afreeca. And then down in the bottom lane, Nuclear on the Xayah in this one, ultis to stay alive, and you know the TPs are coming in. Everybody wants to fight here, but Showmaker on the Zoe grabs 1 more kill. He misses the bubble, but that was a couple of kills going for Damwon, and then they are right back into this matchup. Afreeca diving deep to try and kill Showmaker. The dot does take him down, but then Summit goes a little bit too deep. The Xayah ulti on Sylas is still one of the most hilarious things to see, but he's not able to take down Nuclear or Hoyt, and then Nuggery comes in on the Vladimir to grab another kill after the TP. Damwon cleans up that fight, and then they're pressuring on the Baron, and Punch actually goes down, so there's no smite, but there's no one there to actually contest or try and get the steal. Nuclear picks it up, and it looked like things were smooth sailing for Damwon, but even with the Baron buff, they get caught out. Afreeca dives right down to take down Showmaker, and this fight would continue. Again, you see Sylas using the Xayah ulti on the other side, which is just so funny. Nuggery is left alive, but that's 5 members remaining for Sandbox. He does his very best and actually almost cleans up a couple of them, only ends up taking down Afreeca before he gets cleaned up, but he wasted a lot of time. But that's an ace for Sandbox, and then fighting around the dragon. Still not an Elder yet. You see Summit caught out. He's got to retreat. The Nocturne ulti comes in. A sick Braum ulti to set things up, but Not going to be enough. Nuclear survives. Showmaker on the outer edges of this fight, just barely living. On Fleek's going to go down. Damwon picks up 3. They would eventually chase down a couple more. Then with a Baron buff in the top lane, a bunch of dragons, 2 Mountain Drakes to them. They are just cleaving through these turrets. Sandbox not able to do much. On Fleek ults into the back line, but everyone there is there for the disengage. Nobody goes down. Can't really take down any of the carries. Showmaker flashes over to grab a kill his way, and they're diving to the Nexus turrets to clean this one up. We're going to a third and decisive game. The roster swaps work for Damwon. Nuggery looks great on the Vladimir, as he has for pretty much the entire season. And we go to game 3. No roster changes. You got a Yasuo for Showmaker, though, and you've got Jax for On Fleek, and this fight around the Baron pit, he's just going in, no fear on the Jax. He gets the steal on the Ocean Drake, and we got a brouhaha brewing in the Dragon pit, and 2 down for Damwon, and oh lordy, they are trapped in there now. On Fleek survives with the Devour on Jax, just buys so much time, and then he goes in with the Leap Strike stun again, and we got flashes over for Ghost. He gets bought back over, but he got a Tahm Kench ulti and a Ryze ulti utilized to chase these guys down. Feel like they could have split those up a little bit better so they both didn't go on the same side, but they do grab a bonus kill on the end. That was 4 kills for them. 4v2 dive in the bottom lane. The Ryze is getting insanely ahead at this point, and the snowball was rolling quickly for Sandbox. Right behind Griffin, they've been one of the best early game teams in the LCK so far in the spring split. But there it's On Fleek, getting a little too ahead of himself. He gets caught out. 2 kills because Joker tries to save him, and then it's all on the Baron for Damwon. But 5v3, Sandbox still want to fight it out. They grab a couple of kills, but the Baron does go the way of Punch, and Damwon cue the comeback crew music, but On Fleek is looking for redemption from him getting caught out there. First, he has a multi-man stun there. They do catch out the Sylas. He goes down immediately, but look at On Fleek on this Jax. Cleanses nothing by Showmaker, and then the 3-man counter-strike to turn this fight around for Damwon. Dove is just putting in the machine gun Ryze along with Ghost on the back line. It's just chasing down at that point. Yet another stun for On Fleek. Absolutely disgusting cooldown on that ability in the late game. He finishes 7-1 and 5 on that Jax, puts up a fantastic performance. He actually finished with more kills and assists than that, but he earned himself MVP honors. Only one mistake that, to be fair, did almost get Damwon back into the game, but he pops off on the Jax. Sandbox get revenge for the series earlier on in the split to move to 10-3, and for the time being at least, move ahead of SKT for 2nd overall in the LCK standings. And that is more so what we saw from the early weeks of Sandbox here in the LCK. Damwon, I'm surprised they're doing such huge roster shuffles in between games. It's only Nuclear and Showmaker that are the mainstays on whatever roster is being thrown out there. Nuggery still looked decent, really good on that Vladimir, but On Fleek was the star for pretty much this whole series, I would say. The Jax game in particular, very deserving of that MVP award, and he's been probably the 3rd best jungler in the LCK so far this season, which is one of the main reasons Sandbox cement themselves as a top 3, and for now, top 2 team, but I wouldn't be too worried about Damwon. They're still a legit squad. Coming up after the break, Jin Air. Whew, it's been a tough season for them, but they're looking to avoid the dubious 18-in-a-row losing streak. Welcome back to League Unlock, you beautiful human beings. Eric Hummel, thanks for joining us today. As always, looking at some highlights from Week 7 in the LCK, the Afreeca Freaks versus Jin Air. Now, coming into this series and this entire season, Jin Air, you expected, most people had them at number 10 on the preseason power rankings. No surprise that they've been struggling, but the Afreeca Freaks, people thought at the very least they would be making playoffs. You had Keen, who was at times the best top laner on the entire planet in 2018. Yukal was this surprise rookie on KT, the champions from Korea, the top seed, and was performing on an international level, matching up against Rookie. Even aiming was showing moments where you could say this guy is so aggressive he could be a top tier AD carry. But the Freaks decided we don't want to play any of them except for Keen. It's been such a disaster who they actually throw out on the Rift from any given series. And I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but some highly questionable roster shuffles going on. Pretty much Keen and Dread start every game. Outside of that, it is a toss-up. And in game 1 against Jin Air, who, by the way, riding a 17-game losing streak coming into this match. It was Keen, it was Dread, and they said our only win condition is Keen popping off, so you can play the Vayne in this matchup. And early on, it was Seize for Jin Air, who's been getting the start over Malrang recently, grabbing first blood for Root in the bottom lane. Jin Air actually doing something in the early game, oh boy. And then it was Brook who started in the mid lane. No Yukal, he got caught out recalling, doesn't even get to pop the Sanguine Pool, he just goes down. And then in the bottom lane, that snowball was working. It's another kill. Soul goes down on the Sivir, and Keen says, all right, boys, I'll carry this one. I'm turret diving an Aatrox as a Vayne. He gets the 1-for-1 trade. Not sure if that's worth, but anytime Vayne gets a kill, you could probably just say it's worth. And then we had more action around the top lane. Brook flashes in 1v3 to try and get a kill. Just stay under your turret, man. And then people are dying still for Afreeca in the mid lane. And by the way, 4 dragons right now for Jin Air, and they're still collecting kills. The early game is on point. They're actually looking like a competitive League of Legends team with a sizable gold lead, but you still have Keen on the Vayne in the late game. He's popping off with the QSS, but there's just too many people diving onto him with the Jarvan. It's gonna be a couple of kills going the way of Jin Air, and Root flashes in on the Tristana to take down Soul, and Keen cannot do enough. It took 17 games, but nobody on this planet can beat Jin Air 18 games in a row. They take game 1 against the Afreeca Freaks, and things get even worse for Afreeca, because anytime you're dropping a game to Jin Air, things are looking very gloomy. But they do make a roster change for game 2. Just one. Aiming comes in. Brook stays. Still no Yukal for game 2, but Aiming gets the Lucian, and early on it's Dread on the Lee Sin. And watch Seize. He sees Lee Sin show up and then just says, all right, see you later, guys. Good luck. They get first blood, and then it's going to be a dive. Keen TP's in on the Aatrox. No chance to survive there for the Kalista. Another kill goes the way of Afreeca, as well as an early Infernal Drake for them. You had the Corki in the mid lane for this as well, and Afreeca with 4 dragons. They're feeling safe enough to start the Baron. They got full vision control. Dread boots out the jungler so that he can get a free smite. I love seeing that clean play on the Lee Sin. No need for a 50-50. Dread secures that one. Game 2 looks a whole lot better for Afreeca. They played it low, they played it slow, but they would eventually close this one out with 5 dragons to their name and a Baron buff. Keen, an Aatrox a little bit better in the top lane, and Aiming actually has a great performance on Lucian. And by the way, he's had great performances throughout a lot of this split, so I want to see Aiming in the bottom lane more for the Afreeca Freaks. So we go to game 3, and it's another Vayne, but this time it's going to Aiming, and you have Keen on that Vladimir. Tom Kench, Ezreal in the bottom lane, always fun to play against, and always an extremely difficult duo to dive, but that's exactly what Afreeca tries to do. TPs are coming in aplenty. That dive does not work out. 1 kill, 2 kill, 3 kills go the way of the Afreeca Freaks. They eventually chase down Keen here, and Brook hovering on the outside. They would eventually chase him down too. You can't recall there, man. And 4 kills go to Jin Air. Another early game that's going their way, and they did win a game this series, but remember, they are yet to win an actual best-of-3 series so far. But things looking surprisingly good in the early game here. TP's coming around the Baron pit. Keen on the Vladimir. You get to the mid mid to late game, this champion is absolutely insane. He's gonna flash in. That's 1v4, my man. This is just flashbacks to Faker of 2018, trying to do too much to carry his team. He gets blown up instantly, and Jin Air grabs another kill on the way out, and they're just picking off people now, aiming on the Vayne, tries to make something happen and does get a couple of kills, but it's still Jin Air coming out on top, and now 11-2 in favor of Jin Air. Keen again flashing in, doing his best to try and turn around some of these team fights for Afreeca. The Galio ulti comes in, and they're chasing down. They do get the shutdown on Grace's Syndra, which was 1,000 for the Vayne, and then Afreeca says, all right, boys, let's grab this Baron. This is the comeback train. Keen is getting caught out on the other side, and Tom Kench, he's got Summoner's Spellbook. He comes in with the smite on the Baron. The support steals it, and that is going to be aiming, going down to root on the Ezreal. 18 kills to 3 for Jin Air. They do it. They finally break the streak. They win a best of series. No 0-18 dream here. We're not going to have the perfect ends of the spectrum with Griffin and Jin Air both going 18-0 and 0-18. And the glad plain.jpg. The fans are rewarded. Bring it out, boys. It might be the only time you're seeing it this split. Turn those frowns upside down for Jin Air. Everybody's happy. 1-12 now. It took 8 best of series, 39 days, and 4 different patches since they actually won a game, not a series, just a single game. Now they have 3 game wins on the season, and they move to 1-12, and the struggles for the Afreeca Freaks continue. We saw multiple times there, Keen flashing in, trying to do too much. He's just trying to carry his team, not going to be enough, and Jin Air weren't even that happy with that win because it's not like you're spoiling anyone's playoff hopes or chances. You win one game, you're 1-12, you're still going to finish 10th. Afreeca's probably going to finish bottom 3 as well, although they have some serious competition with Gen G and KT Rolster. And I don't understand why UCal didn't play at all this series. Game 1 was pretty terrible for Brooks in that mid lane. Why not bring in UCal? We've seen he played at the international level. He was one of the best mid laners in the LCK. I know he has not played at that level here in 2019, but I would much rather see him out there struggling because you know the potential that he has alongside Keen. That was supposed to be the strength on this Afreeca Freak squad, were their solo lanes, but it's only Dread and Keen that get the start. Keep out aiming and keep out UCal and just try and figure something out with this roster going into the summer split, because spring, write them off. The Freaks are done here in 2019. But for Jin Air, enjoy it because there's a good chance it's your only win this split. But they should be excited that they won't go in the history books as the only 0-18 team in the LCK. The streak is obviously still alive for Griffin. The streak and the dream of not having a single loss. But who knows, maybe they're linked with Jin Air, which means they're only going to lose in their very next match.